Alright, 1, 2, 3, go.
Welcome to Twig and Magic, the dark side of Twig and Magic. This is Twig and Magic tabletop, where
Oh Lord, just be chill.
I'm trying to be. I am not used to talking.
Hey guys, welcome to Twig and Magic, Brandon's miniature painting channel, where he's going to be playing board games and tabletop stuff with his friends. And he spent our whole life savings on these little mini men, so please watch where he paints them. And subscribe. Thanks so much.
In this box is an army that does not belong to me, and a promise that I could not keep. My friend, I asked him 6 months ago, can I paint your army? Because he's been 2 years without painting a single thing. In that time, I have painted 4,000 points of Tyranids and 4,000 points of Space Marines. That is a lot of points for those of you who don't follow Warhammer. And that is a lot of money. A lot of money. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about his army and his unpainted army. So, I thought it was going to be a great idea to try to paint his army in a week. That didn't happen. I painted 10 sisters and realized how much detail was in painting Custodes. Custodes are a lot of work. Let's just call them a lot of work. Especially for the scheme that he was going for. We're doing a black armor with a gold trim. And yeah, that was a poor decision on my behalf of even asking to paint this army. So, let's dive right in and see what I'm talking about.
So, we have Trajan here. My friend has already primed and built him. Well, one notable thing is that he's been overprimed. So, you do lose quite a bit of detail in the model, but that's okay. We can actually work with that because Custodes have a ridiculous amount of detail. Notably, the arm shoulder pieces. He has a sword behind him, which personally I probably would have done every single one of these in separate parts because of the amount of detail. And one noticeable thing in all of the detail that I'm pointing out is my guy has a bolter in his staff or his power sword, which honestly I think that's probably one of the coolest features that I've seen on any model, but I believe that's all of Custodes. I don't run Custodes, so I wouldn't know. Like I said, this is my friend's army. This is the color scheme that we chose to go with. He wants a black army with gold trim and purple accents such as the cloth, hair, anything of that manner. The fur was kind of hard to decide on what I was going to do, but I figured white was the best option. But let's get started. This is pretty much the way I set up my wet palette. Put a piece of paper towel down, and then I place a second one over top to keep my paintbrush wet. I'm not a big fan of the licking method, and I find this a lot better. Next, I lay down my parchment paper. I place a few coins on top of that parchment paper because parchment paper doesn't really like water and likes to ravel up. So let's get started with our primer. I'm mixing in my airbrush a little bit of model color from Vallejo and a little bit of paint thinner. I mix that up until I get that so-called skim milk consistency, but I really don't drink milk, so I don't know what skim milk even looks like. But what I try to look for is how runny the paint is on the side of the bottle or the container. Now, I do make my paint a little bit too thick. As you can see, I am getting a bit of speckling. You don't really want speckling. For one thing, it does cause your airbrush to get clogged up easier, and you will kind of miss spots when you're painting. Then I make a complete and utter mess, and I'm like, you know what? That's fine. Let's get going because I am impatient. The colors I plan on using for the dry brush is a black and gray color from Model Color. I actually got those out of the non-metallic metal pack that they have. I put those on my wet palette and then I go in and begin to dry brush. Now, the reason why I choose to use the dry brush method to edge highlight is because I really don't like edge highlighting. Like I said before, I'm super impatient and I'm always looking for the quickest route to do something and make it look good at the same time. So with this process, like I said, I dry brush, but I'm very, very lightly hitting the edge of the model with it. As you can see here, because I only use the edge of the brush, I'm not hitting the entire model, which gives it a nice, to me, a little bit more of a natural looking edge highlight rather than going in with that GW style type of edge highlight. As you can see, I am mixing my paint at the moment, trying to get the right blend. Then I go in and hit my model. I'm a little bit more aggressive only because there's a lot of standing pieces and he doesn't actually have much armor showing. Now, once that's all said and done, we can actually go ahead and start working on the cape. Reason why I chose the cape as the next best option was because it's probably what covers Trajan the most. And the bigger the object, the more time it's going to take me to paint. I go ahead and mix a darker purple, and I went in to do more of a wet blending technique, and then I quickly realized I did not like it. You'll see that I actually end up letting it dry, and then I decide to go in and layer. I actually find that layering, or as some people call it, volumetric painting, is a much easier process than going in and doing anything else, because I can place the colors exactly where I want to and then go right behind it and glaze it to get a smoother effect. Does it take longer? Yeah, it takes twice as long to do anything when you do it right. Just kidding. It doesn't necessarily mean that what I'm doing is right or wrong. I just prefer that method, but I'm always right. I went in right after to start glazing and smoothing out my transition from my mid-tone to my darker tone. The reason why I do that is because I actually don't just place the highlight on top. I start to glaze the highlight color in because it is a lot easier to build on the highlight color than it is to place it and then blend it. You spend way more time trying to blend 3 layers than you do 2. In this clip, you really see how the more that I glaze, the smoother the transition becomes. I can be truly honest with you guys. I'm adding the highlight color in as a glaze layer but I probably used about 10 to 15 glazes all together just to build up this transition with the capes. Capes are probably one of the harder things to build up because usually the capes are large and have a lot more area to cover. Now it's time for the lion. I really wasn't sure what color I wanted to do the lion. On the sisters, I did a black gradient to white. With the lion, I felt like it was such a prominent piece of the model. Ooh, there go my wife hand. That being black to white would have been a bit more flat and boring. So I decided to start off with a darker brown as the base color and building my layers from there. So while stopping and staring at my model, as do most many painters do, I totally forgot to paint the front along with the back. It probably would have made my life a lot easier because I wouldn't have had to wait for any dry time, because I could have went to another part of the model, painted it, and come back to this one. Well, while staring at my model after painting the lion, I had to come and paint the front of his armor or loincloth or whatever you want to call that thing. I don't know what the technical term for the cloth in front of the armor actually is, so it's a crotch cloth. That's right, I called it a crotch cloth. Once that was finished, I moved back over to my lion because it was completely dry, and I used that gray brown color from Pro Acryl and mixed it with the bone from Pro Acryl just to build up to a lighter layer. So the whole concept was originally to do like this white lion because I thought, you know, Trajan slayed a mighty rare beast, whatever. And I was looking at images and I figured that the natural yellows that the lion had would go great with the accents from the purple. If you know your color theory, you will understand that yellow is a complementary color to purple or violet or whatever you want to call it. So just to complement that cape in the back, I figured I would be very subtle with the yellow. I didn't want to do just like a gold lion or a super yellow brown lion because of all of the gold bits that was going to be put in detail later. At some point, I realized how flat the lion was looking, so I went off and decided that I was going to add more brown into the mix. I was going to do more of a warmer brown, almost as if like as the hair was growing out, it started off brown and developed into white. I decided to put yellow at first, which probably wasn't the best decision. It did warm up some of the fur, which was great, but I did end up going back over it later with a little bit of white inside of that. It's time to paint the gold. The secret to painting any small details is taking your time and choking up on your brush and pretending that you're drawing the smallest letters known to mankind. You ever seen those people in like grade school that used to put their face directly on the paper, choke up as far as they could, and write? That's literally what I'm doing.
I find that it does keep my hand steady, along with the whole concept of bracing one hand on top of the other, and the lightest touch possible, because you want to be able to use only the tip of your brush. Now, going to Michael's and buying a random set of brushes or buying GW brushes will not cut it. You need a type of brush that it specifically designed for model painting, but also has a very, very, very fine tip.
So now we're going to move on to the back of the cape. I'm still just going in and applying gold everywhere that is needed. There was a small double crested eagle in the back. I think that's the Aquila that most Astartes talk about. This was not the easiest thing to do, but you know, it's there. I had to paint it, even though I hated every second of this part. Now, I felt as though the metal was looking kind of flat in areas, so I decided to take some contrast paint and place it in areas that I wanted to hide in shadow, bringing out some of the detail of the armor. So the next thing that I do is I take my dry brush and I hit the highest points with the gold that was originally painted on there, because like I said, I want that warm color to be in the furthest recesses. Now, after I dry brushed it, I didn't like it that much, so instead I ended up edge highlighting more of the gold color. Now that the gold is done, I can actually go in and correct a few of the mistakes that I've made, especially in the cape area, because it was looking a little on the sloppy side. I did my best to try to get into the crevices. Like I said, I'm not a really big fan of the details added onto capes and things like that. You know, grayed out, it looks cool as a, like I said, a gray model, but trying to paint it for me is the hugest pain. With that being said, it's time to move on to the feather. Now, I went back with the Pro Acryl color, the brown gray, as a base color, and then I again mixed a lighter bone color, I believe from Model Color, to dry brush that on top. Now, I'm still following the same process as I did the lion. I just dry brush the lighter colors on top of each other just to build up some type of gradient. And when I finally got to white, I used the edge of my brush and more of the side of my brush to highlight the areas that I wanted white. Now it's time to base coat anything that I need to be blue, such as the power weapon, the handle to his power staff, as well as the handle to his sword. Once that was finished, I moved on to his face. Now, I started off with a dark brown color because my friend actually requested that all of his characters be black. I took the brown color, mixed it with a ice yellow, and built up my layers from there. I do apologize for my hand. It was very, very hard to show this close and not touch anything else. To smooth out my layers, I did begin to glaze a warmer color all over. Like I said, I didn't have to do as many glazes because the area was much smaller. Now it's time to finish the power sword. I actually do this with my airbrush. So I taped off the areas that I wanted to paint. I actually use my finger because I'm lazy. And then I spray the main area that I want to be white, giving it that power glow effect. Now we're pretty much going through the same process with the edge of the blade. I did not feel like taping that off, so therefore I used my thumb to cover it because the curvature of my thumb fit the edge of the blade perfectly. So I let that be. The last thing I do is I take a little bit of ink and I spray the edge of the power sword to make that area of effect blue. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. If you like the way Trajan looked, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And remember, put a little magic in everything you do. Mini men.
And he spent
We
all our
got a bunch
savings
of
on
mini
this
men.
shit. So please watch these videos so we can recoup. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.